What is autoimmunity? Broad sense, autoimmunity is body's immune system is attacking the body's own cells and tissues. Grossly, autoimmunity is this. So, if you have to define autoimmunity, autoimmunity is a condition in which the immune system fails to recognize self antigens and mounts an immune response against the body's own tissues, leading to tissue injury and disease. It means that the immune system, mostly the lymphocytes, T lymphocytes, B lymphocytes, they fail to recognize the body's own tissue and they treat them as foreign antigens. And as a result, there is the immune reaction against that tissue and there is tissue destruction and subsequently some diseases. So, this is the definition of autoimmunity. In your syllabus, it is written definition and enumeration of some diseases, and I shall discuss in short some of the pathophysiology, a few points about the pathophysiology of the disease. So, there is a thing called immune tolerance. This immune tolerance helps our body to defend against this autoimmunity. For this immune tolerance, our own body immune system does not react to our own body tissue. So, what is this immune tolerance? Immune tolerance is the ability of the immune system to avoid reacting against self antigens. It is a mechanism that prevents the body to act against its own cells and tissues. So, what are the types of immune tolerance? The immune tolerance may be central or peripheral. The central immune tolerance occurs during lymphocyte development. During the development of the lymphocyte, that means in fetal life. So, the cells are T cells and they develop in the thymus, and what they do negative selection of autoreactive T cells. That means that the T cells which are reactive against the own antigens, they are deleted, they are erased. And B cells, they develop in the bone marrow, and in this case also the autoreactive bone marrow, autoreactive B cells in the bone marrow get deleted. That is called clonal deletion. The whole clone from which that autoimmune B cells are derived, that whole clone gets deleted. And peripheral tolerance. If an autoantibody bypasses the central mechanism of autoimmunity, then there is a peripheral tolerance. Then peripheral tolerance is that which prevents activation of self-reactive cells that escape the central tolerance. If the cell escapes the central tolerance, then the peripheral tolerance will control these cells. What are the mechanism? Energy. Energy means functional inactivation of lymphocytes. The lymphocytes are not directly killed, but they are functionally inactivated. This is known as energy. Then regulated T cells. There is a subtype of T cells which are called regulatory T cells, Treg. These regulatory T cells suppress the autoreactive cells. They cause suppression of autoreactive cells. And lastly, there is, when every option has gone out of hand, then comes apoptosis. Apoptosis means already know it's programmed cell death. There is programmed cell death of the activated cells. There is programmed cell death of the self-reactive cells. So, there is central tolerance, peripheral tolerance, and lastly it will undergo, if these two types of things is unable to control the autoimmunity, then apoptosis of all the cells which are directed against the self antigen, they are destroyed by apoptosis. You have read apoptosis, you know the definition and all those things. Apoptosis has been taken, no? So here also apoptosis comes into action. So there is classification of autoimmune diseases. There may be organ specific autoimmune diseases or systemic autoimmune diseases. The organ specific autoimmune diseases include type 1 diabetes mellitus. I shall come to the type of antigens later. Hashimoto thyroiditis, myasthenia gravis, Graves disease. These are organ specific. That means the whole body system is not affected by autoimmunity, but these specific target organs, they are affected by autoimmunity. Type 1 diabetes mellitus, Hashimoto thyroiditis, myasthenia gravis and Graves disease. And the systemic disease, systemic autoimmune disease, here all many systems, more than one system of the body is affected by autoimmunity, like SLE, rheumatoid arthritis, scleroderma, Sjogren's syndrome. Here many system, more than one system is affected by autoimmune diseases. So what is the pathogenesis of autoimmune disease? First of all, autoantibody mediated. This is the most common type. Here the antibodies bind self antigens and there is tissue destruction. Like example is Graves disease. Autoantibody means antibody is produced against the self tissue, and these antibodies bind to the self antigens and they cause tissue destruction. This is simple. A body tissue like Graves disease occurs in thyroid. So autoantibodies are formed against some component of thyroid and they attack that component and cause cell tissue destruction. This autoantibody mediated autoimmunity is example is Graves disease. Then T cell mediated injury. T cell means CD4 plus and CD8 plus T cells. Both of these T cells, they damage the tissues. This occurs mainly in case of type 1 diabetes mellitus. Both CD4 plus and CD8 plus T cells cause damage to the tissues. And here is a small diagram. This shows everything, how it happens. Whatever is written here, that is shown in this small diagram. Now immune complex depositions. Here antigen antibody complexes deposit in the tissue and cause inflammation. The first one, antibodies bind to the tissue self antigens. Here the antigen antibody means there is some antigen, like say in case of SLE, the antigen is against anti-dsDNA. The antibody is anti-dsDNA, means the antigen is dsDNA, against it the autoantibody is formed, and this antigen antibody complex, they get precipitated in the tissue and causes inflammation, and this is the mechanism of action of SLE. This thing you have to remember. Type 1 diabetes mellitus, what is the autoantigen? Against whom these autoantigens are formed? They are the islet cell antigens. Type 1 diabetes, the antigen is islet cell antigen. Against this islet cell antigen, antibodies are produced. In rheumatoid arthritis, there is a factor, rheumatoid factor, a protein. Against this, the antibody is produced. This is the autoantigen. In SLE, There is dsDNA and histones. These are the two main things against which autoantigen is produced. In myasthenia gravis, there is acetylcholine receptor in the nerve endings. You know, in the nerve endings there are acetylcholine receptors. Against these acetylcholine receptors, the autoantibody is formed and it causes myasthenia gravis. And in multiple sclerosis, there is a protein called myelin basic protein. This is found in the myelin sheath of the nerve. This myelin basic protein acts as the autoantigen. Antibody is produced against this and cause multiple sclerosis. Clear up to this? Any question? Now, how do you diagnose that a patient has autoimmune disease? First of all, there are autoantibody tests. These tests are the gold standard tests. Like you will find the autoantibodies against anti-nuclear antibody in RA factor, anti-dsDNA. You have to find these autoantibodies in the serum of the patient. If you this may be of two types, qualitative and quantitative. In quantitative, you can quantify how much autoantibody is there, and in qualitative you will just get it negative or positive, ANA negative or ANA positive, anti-dsDNA negative or anti-dsDNA positive. So these are autoantibody tests. In case of imaging, what will you see? Like rheumatoid arthritis, it is an autoimmune disorder, and here the mainly the bones and joints are involved. So you can see the joint damage and organ involvement in imaging like CT, MRI. You can see this joint damage, organ involvement, you can see this. And the last thing is biopsy. You have to confirm the tissue injury from the autoantibody. The autoantibody causes, obviously it causes tissue and tissue destruction and tissue injury. So if you do a biopsy from the concerned tissue, you will get a confirmation of diagnosis. And this biopsy is very important in case of renal injury in SLE. You have to confirm it by biopsy. You have to do a renal biopsy and confirm that SLE induced renal pathology, and there is a gradation, and you have to report according to that, because nephritis, lupus nephritis is the commonest complication and commonest cause of death in SLE. That's why biopsy is important. And with this biopsy, this not only light microscopy, there will be fluorescent microscopy and electron microscopy. All these three things are used to diagnose SLE, lupus nephritis. So, the prototype of the disease is SLE. What SLE stands for? Systemic lupus erythematosus. Remember the full term. It will be asked in the viva. What is the full term of SLE? You are going speaking SLE. You are speaking everything about SLE, and then they will ask, what is SLE? What is the full form of SLE? And in our times, the teachers used to say, write down the spelling of SLE. So don't just remember SLE, remember the full form, systemic lupus erythematosus. You have to remember the full form and the full spelling. So what is SLE? Systemic lupus erythematosus. It is obviously a chronic disease. All autoimmune diseases are mainly chronic diseases. It is a multi-system disease. I showed you in the previous chart, it is a systemic disease. So SLE affects multiple systems of the body, and it is characterized by the production of autoantibodies against nuclear antigens, resulting in immune complex mediated tissue injury. That also I told previously. The mechanism of action of SLE is there is binding of autoantigen and antibody, and this antigen antibody complexes get deposited in the tissue and causes tissue injury. This is the definition of SLE. You have to know the full name and this full definition. And you have to like chronic. You can't miss these words. Chronic, multi-system, autoimmune disease, autoantibodies against nuclear antigens, immune complex mediated tissue injury. You cannot miss these words. If you miss these words, the definition will be incomplete. Now, what is the etiology of SLE? So, the most common etiology is the genetic factor HLA DR2 DR3. It has got strong association with SLE. You have to remember HLA, you have been taught in the previous class, no? So, HLA DR2 and DR3, these are the two things which has got strong association with SLE. And there is deficiency of complement also, C2 and C4 deficiency. It also increases the risk of SLE. But this HLA DR2 and DR3, they are the strongest, they have the strongest association with SLE. This is the genetic factor. You have to know this. Complement deficiency, if you can say it's very good, if you cannot say it's okay, but you have to know this HLA DR2 DR3, this HLA type, they have a strong association with SLE. Now the environmental factor. Now the environmental factor is not directly causing SLE because it is immune complex disease, but the environmental factors, they trigger SLE, like UV radiation. UV radiation, it causes like UV radiation. What it causes? It causes DNA damage and apoptosis, and when this occurs, the nuclear antigen gets exposed and antibodies are formed against them. Viral infection, like Epstein-Barr virus, it has some molecular mimicry with the lupus antigen. So this infection with EBV, it can also precipitate the signs and symptoms of SLE. Drugs. Some drugs, they also cause precipitation of SLE. These are hydralazine and procainamide. These drugs, they precipitate the immune complex deposit and tissue injury. There are hormonal factors like estrogen enhances the B cell activity. B cell activity means more immune complex will be formed and there will be tissue injury. So if you see, the SLE is more common in females, and if you see a person a female, a lady who has SLE and which is controlled, more or less controlled, if she gets pregnant, there will be flaring up of the symptoms of SLE. So in pregnancy, obviously estrogen levels are high. So in that case, there is flaring up of SLE. So there is the diagram of the pathophysiology of SLE, pathogenesis and pathophysiology of SLE. So there are 5 main things which causes tissue destruction in SLE. First there is loss of cell tolerance. I told you loss of cell tolerance. I told you about cell tolerance, primary tolerance and secondary tolerance. So there is loss of self tolerance. Autoantibody production. There is production of autoantibody against anti-dsDNA and anti-smooth muscle. Then there is formation, these autoantibodies form complexes with these antigens and form immune complexes. These immune complexes get deposited in the tissues, and these immune complexes, when they get deposited in the tissues, they cause an inflammatory reaction, and there is complement activation, and complement activation further escalates the inflammation and causes the tissue damage. This is the main pathogenesis of SLE. This is in short the main pathogenesis of SLE. So you have to remember this step by step. And here it is the picture. You can just see the picture how it happens. But these are the main points, main focus of the pathogenesis of SLE. Loss of self tolerance. This, as you read, as I told in the autoimmune. So, central tolerance, which T cells and B cells, they regulate the central tolerance, and there is a peripheral tolerance. Peripheral tolerance, there is energy regulatory T cells or Treg and then apoptosis. So this whole mechanism gets disrupted in SLE. First of all, there is disruption of this mechanism, and when this disruption, when there is disruption of this thing, this peripheral and central tolerance, there is production of autoantibodies. That means there is no bar in producing autoantibodies, and mainly the anti-dsDNA, double stranded. DS means double stranded DNA. Anti-dsDNA and anti-smooth muscle antigen, they work, these things work as antigen, and then the autoantibody is produced against these antigens. This occurs, these are the steps. SLE occurs in these steps. The third step is formation of immune complexes. There is loss of self tolerance, then autoantibodies formed against anti-dsDNA, anti-SM, and this autoantibody binds to anti-dsDNA and anti-SM. And as a result of binding, there is formation of immune complexes. And what happens to these immune complexes? The immune complexes get deposited in various tissues, not only a single tissue, but various tissues of multiple systems of our body. And then what does it do? It causes complement activation and inflammation and tissue damage. SLE is a systemic disease, that's why this immune complex formation and deposition occurs at multiple sites. So, not only dsDNA and anti-SM, ANA, anti-nuclear antibody. So, what we do is we first see it is ANA positive or ANA negative. If anti-nuclear antigen, it is done as a screening test. If ANA is positive, we go further for detection of this test. Anti-dsDNA, this is the gold standard, and this is the disease activity marker. If anti-dsDNA quantity is high, that means there is flaring up of the disease, and if anti-dsDNA reduces, see you give some medications and anti-dsDNA decreases, then that means the disease is coming under control. So this is a disease activity marker. Anti-smooth muscle antigen, this is highly specific for SLE. Anti-phospholipid antibodies, there are presence of anti-phospholipid antibodies which causes thrombosis and miscarriages. I told you in pregnancy SLE flares up. This flaring up of SLE occurs due to this anti-phospholipid antibodies. This causes thrombosis. Thrombosis means there is formation of thrombus within the arteries and veins, and also the blood supply of the uterus, and there is miscarriages. If the fetus doesn't get any blood supply, what will happen? It will die and there will be miscarriage. So this antiphospholipid antibody, this is responsible for thrombosis from all the thrombotic events, and it is responsible for the miscarriages that occurs in SLE. And there may be anti-RO and anti-LA. This causes neonatal lupus. You have to, you have to remember the first four things thoroughly. You have to tell if it is asked in the viva or it comes as a long question. These four things you have to write. This one, if you can write, remember this fifth one, it's well and good. But these four things you have to remember, and you have, if it comes as theory, you have to write down. If it comes in the viva, you have to tell at least these four things. So what laboratory findings you will get in case of SLE? The first thing is we do is ANA. ANA is a basic screening test for SLE. If ANA is positive, then we go for the other tests. Then we do anti-dsDNA. Anti-dsDNA will be raised. It is used for diagnosis of SLE, as well as it is used as a prognostic marker for SLE. We see the complement levels where there will be lowering of C3 and C4. And the thing we do is, SLE affects the kidney the most. The most affected organ in SLE is kidney. So what urine analysis is very important, and urine analysis and then renal biopsy. In urine analysis, what you have to do, you have to look for proteinuria, hematuria, and RBC casts. These three things you have to look for. So urine analysis is very important. If there is proteinuria, RBC casts, then you have to perform a renal biopsy, and you have to examine that under the microscope and fluorescence. You have to do go for immunofluorescence. So what is the management of SLE? There is mild, moderate, severe type of SLE. If the anti-dsDNA is less, the patient is not having much symptoms, just joint pain, and so you can treat those patients with NSAIDs or hydroxychloroquine. If the symptoms becomes moderate, then you have to add steroids and cyclophosphamide. You know, this one is a chemotherapy. This cyclophosphamide is used for chemotherapy also. So you have to use that drug in case of moderate SLE, and if there is severe bone pain, bone joint deformity, and there is multiple organ involvement, then you have to use mycophenolate. And there are biologics, like there are targeted therapy. This targeted therapy includes belimumab. Belimumab is a targeted therapy. This is the last option, and these are the things which are used in cases of mild, moderate, and severe SLE. Now, the main complications of SLE. Renal failure. This is the main complication of SLE, and most of the patients who have SLE die of renal failure. The most common cause of death in SLE is renal failure. Then thromboembolism. Second most common cause, infections i- and cardiovascular disease. See, infections can occur because there is a deranged immunity in the body, so there will be infections. And moreover, you are using the drugs like this one, corticosteroids, cyclophosphamide. These drugs causes suppression of immunity. You know, corticosteroid suppresses immunity. This is anti-cancer drug. This also suppresses immunity. So there are two reasons for suppression of immunity, and suppression of immunity leads to infections, and this infection further complicates the disease. And there is thromboembolism. So when there is thromboembolism, obviously the cardiovascular system is going to be affected. So renal failure, this occurs due to renal lupus nephritis, and this is the most important prognostic factor. If the renal, if there is renal injury in the patient, then that becomes the most important prognostic factor. Whatever is the status of this, you can control this, but this renal thing, this determines the prognosis of the patient, how many years the patient will live, will the patient need a renal transplant or not. This all depends on this. Thromboembolism, what occurs, it is caused by the antiphospholipid antibodies leading to abnormal clotting, and this cause deep vein thrombosis, stroke, pulmonary embolism, and as well as miscarriages. Miscarriages occurs due to thromboembolism. Infections, immunosuppressive therapy, and the disease is itself predisposed to bacterial, viral, and opportunistic infections. It is a immunocompromised state, and so there is every chance of opportunistic infections. Do you know what is opportunistic infections? You know, you already know. Okay, then I am not explaining it. The cardiovascular system. Here also there is increased risk of atherosclerosis, pericarditis, myocarditis, Liebman-Sachs endocarditis. This is specific for SLE. This you have to tell in cardiovascular system. Liebman-Sachs endocarditis. This one you have to say, and you go to your hostel and find out in the book where is Liebman Sachs endocarditis, and you can make a short note on this. This Liebman Sachs endocarditis is very important in context to SLE. And this Liebman Sachs endocarditis, this increase the rate of heart attack and other cardiac problems. You have to see what is Liebman Sachs endocarditis, how the vegetations are, how it affects the valves of the heart. You have to read this, okay? Liebman Sachs endocarditis. This renal and this Liebman Sachs endocarditis, they are very important. Prognosis. If you give the patient proper treatment, there is 90 more than 90% chance of 10 years survival, and renal involvement is the main prognostic factor. What is there? It requires at 4 or more than 4 of the following features: malar rash, photosensitivity. What is malar rash? This occurs in this area, like it is also called butterfly rash. So there is red macular patches in the malar area. Then photosensitivity, then oral ulcers, arthritis, renal disease, neurologic disorder, hematologic disorder. There may be hemolytic anemia and there may be decrease in platelet count. immunological disorder and positive ANA. এটা কাজ করছে না কেন? So this picture shows the various complications. There are neurological complications and constitutional symptoms are always there, like fever, arthralgia, myalgia, these constitutional symptoms and neurological symptoms are there. What happens in the lungs? In lungs, there is pleuritis, pneumonia, pleural effusion, and pulmonary hypertension. What happens in the skin? This is malar rash. Butterfly, this is also called butterfly rash. This occurs here from cheek over the nose to opposite cheek. Here the malar rash occurs. In heart, what happens? Endocarditis, pericarditis, myocarditis, and coronary artery disease. All the layers of heart can be involved by SLE, but you have to remember that Liebman-Sachs and endocarditis. You have to know the name. It is very often asked in Viva and small and short note can come. In kidney, there is renal complication and which glomerulonephritis mainly, and this has got a WHO classification because this is the most important prognostic factor. In joints, what will you get? Arthritis, and this arthritis is deforming. There is deformity of the joints. There is Raynaud's phenomena due to occlusion of the vessels by thrombosis, and there is hematological complications like hemolytic anemia, reduction of platelet count. So, skin, butterfly rash, photosensitivity, joints, non-erosive arthritis, kidney, lupus nephritis, CNS, seizures and psychosis, heart, Liebman-Sachs endocarditis, thromboembolism, pericarditis, myocarditis, everything. Blood, hemolytic anemia, leukopenia, decreased platelet count, all these things are the clinical features of SLE. Now, lupus nephritis has got a WHO classification. This WHO has made every pathologist's life a hell. But you have to remember this thing, the WHO classification of lupus nephritis. This WHO classification and the criteria of diagnosis. Okay, you have to learn it by heart. What is class 1? Class 1 is minimal mesangial. That means in the mesangium there is minimal deposit, and these things cannot be appreciated in the light microscope. You have to use fluorescence microscopy for seeing these things. Then class 2 is mesangial proliferating. Proliferative, that means there is proliferation of the mesangial cells. You can see it under the fluorescent microscopy. It is not that much of visible in the light microscopy. Class 3 is focal proliferative, means there is focal proliferation of the mesangium. And number 4 is diffuse proliferative, and this is the most severe form of the lupus nephritis. There is diffuse proliferation of the mesangium, and this is most severe. See, this class 4 is the most severe, whereas class 5 and class 6 they are not as severe as class 4. Class 5 is membranous glomerulonephritis, and class 6 is advanced sclerosing. There means there is sclerosis of the nephrons. But this is an exception, like number 4, the fourth one, which class 4 WHO, there is diffuse proliferative glomerulonephritis. This is the most severe form, and renal failure occurs in this, starts in this, and then 5 is membranous, and 6 is advanced sclerosing. So you have to learn that this chart you have to learn. Have got this chart in your book? This there. In your book it is there. The WHO criteria. Not there. Often seen. WHO criteria and the ASIA criteria for diagnosis. It requires more than equal to 4 of the following: malar rash, photosensitivity, oral ulcers, arthritis, renal disorder, neurological disorder, hematological disorder, immunological disorder, and positive ANA. Okay, these things you have to remember, you have to learn this by heart, and that, and these all may be there in the in long question. If SLE comes as a long question, you have to write this. And if in Viva they might ask what are the diagnostic criteria of SLE, and this one, WHO classification of lupus nephritis.